As if the labor disputes in previous years weren't enough, now the evil Mazan corporate fatties are attempting a hostile takeover of Dwarf Santa's operation. And how does Dwarf Santa respond to this? Well, by making all the gains, of course, ripping off his sleeves, learning the rune crafts. Today, we've got a very special replay from Tactical Lich here. Santa defending the North Pole against the greedy corporate fatties. Of course, that is the Ogre Kingdoms coming in with a Slaughtermaster of the corporate Maw. Got a Stonehorn of Morn here, Snowhorn even. Some Corpo Enforcers here. We've got some Gnoblars as well. Some Gobbo Henchmen, if you will, Gnoblar Henchmen, and a couple of sleds. Scrap launchers. Santa, on the other hand, disassembled his sleds and has fashioned them into 3 bolt throwers. He's got his trusty engineer. The elves, of course, given their previous labor disputes and general untrustworthiness, could not be relied upon for this battle. Instead, Dwarf Santa's brought his clan folk with him. Got Dwarf Warriors up front with some Rangers as a ranged support. Of course, Longbeards and Slayers as well to help defend the honor of FESTAG, of course. You see, these Corpos, they want to make it a celebration of meat, which I know might be a good time, maybe more appropriate for the summer months when you could barbecue outside, you know, launch some fireworks into the sky, but certainly this time of year belongs to this one right here. Let's see how he can get on to defend. The scrap launchers launching on the flanks here aren't doing too much damage. Scrap launchers AP isn't all that spectacular, but the bolt throwers short range means they have to come pretty far forward in order to get effective fire. There's also this sort of odd hill situation here where they can't get direct line of sight down, shoot the scrap launcher, even though its arc of fire allows it to fire up here. Not particularly accurately, but still, it is technically shooting. The engineer hanging out nearby to help boost some stats here. Let's take a look at his ammo, or his abilities rather. He does have the ammo refill, flash bomb as well, ballistics calibration, but the Gnoblars, yes, corporate goons here, and the enforcers getting into melee combat against trusty clan folk, holding the line valiantly, definitely taking some horrendous damage, but of course regular dwarf warriors do have charge defense against large. That ogre charge ability of the ogres will negate part of that, but they do still get a degree of protection. Stonehorn, Snowhorn even, punching through the front line, not overrunning directly into the rangers quite yet, but definitely threatening to do so. And the Corpo goons here just pressing on all fronts. We get some saber tusks in the back line here. Manage to avoid nice maneuvering by these 2 saber tusks, drawing out Rune of Slowness and Flash Bomb. Both. This one also gets hit by Flammable now with the Dragonback Slayers. Not going to be able to escape, but still at least disrupting and momentarily shutting down the bolt throwers. The thing about bolt throwers, of course, they are pretty cheap, so honestly, the 1-to-1, the Saber Tusks only cost slightly less than an individual bolt thrower, so not the most cost-efficient commitment. Although the Snowhorn now getting into backline, we see a big old Corpo fist bump there. Definitely feeling very hardcore as it bumps into the Longbeards, although they're able to tank out that damage just fine. The Dwarf Warriors looks like they're running for the hills, although the right flank is holding much better. Dwarf Warriors and Longbeards all holding out here, only 1 unit routing. Rangers also reorganizing, trying to get into a position to support, but things are crumbling quickly. Thankfully, the Dragonback Slayers, that frostbite from the Snowhorn does get counteracted by their own Flammable, which is, of course, a 30% speed debuff on both. Yeah, Rune of Doom also being popped now to give a nice map-wide melee attack buff to all these units. Getting some sweet damage output. The Slayers also, again, have speed. Obviously, any anti-large unit's going to be great against the Ogres, but Slayers in particular, the fact that they're unbreakable, high charge, you can just countercharge into the Ogres and do quite a bit of damage. This unit of Dragonbacks staying committed to the Snowhorn, which I definitely agree with. Could be some potential healing there, though, so they'll have to get quite a bit of DPS out to finish it off. Scrap Launcher also launching in from the low ground there. But let's see. Going to have some Dwarf Warriors coming back from route. More Dwarf Warriors here, also likely to come back from route. But the Bolt Throwers generally having a tough go of it. Does allow the Master Engineer to fight in combat, shoot a little bit. He could just utilize his hybrid utility. Great effect, although he gets bonked right there by the snow horn and sent tumbling into the snow, of course. And he's going to continue to do so, but while he's getting knocked around, he's not going to be taking as much damage, and he can distract the snow horn effectively, while the Dwarf Warriors, Longbeards, and Slayers, mostly just Slayers, are able to finish things off, continue fighting the Saber Tusks and the Ogres. At this point, the Bolt Throwers can kind of act as terrain pieces for the Dwarfs to fight around. It will disrupt the movements of especially large units as they kind of get blocked and have to walk around the pieces. Looks like the Bolt Thrower crew is still fighting. They're saying, hey, we're not just a terrain piece, but the others are mostly shut down here. Might be able to get back online, but we'll see. This Bolt Thrower is still staying focused on the Snowhorn. Probably the best bet. I mean, it does have its special missile resistance ability on top of already having very good missile resistance, so it will have plenty of mitigation against that, but every little bit of damage helps in a situation like this. Master Engineer going to take a big charge there, though. Big burst of damage. As he gets back up, he's at risk of taking some more hits, but Slayer's now collapsing. Having mostly cleared out the near vicinity can keep this Bolt Thrower safe, although the Slayers do have to be careful. They get an unlucky hit by that Scrap Launcher on these unarmored Slayers. Could do a lot of value damage and basically pay for the Scrap Launcher in just a couple of shots, which so far has not been able to do so, but we'll see. Master Rune of Slowness on top of the Flammable effect should be enough to get maximum speed reduction, or close to it at least. I mean, yeah, 90% speed reduction on the Snowhorn there. I don't think you can actually go 100% speed reduction without a hard snare, but anyway. The Snowhorn's attack animations, of course, will still carry him kind of across the battlefield here and be able to move around quite a bit. But the Slayers are all getting damage in this meantime. Thoric himself can also move in. I mean, Rune Santa with his sweet armor-piercing damage. Decent enough stats, certainly. 45 melee attack, not incredible, but only 36 defense on the Snowhorn there, despite the healing. Again, Rune of Slowness, Flammable, is going to keep it locked in and continuing to take damage from the Dowie. But looks like we've got some Lead Belchers still online and basically fully healthy. There's another unit of Lead Belchers over here that I failed to realize, mostly because they've been getting chased around by Slayers pretty much the entire time. But they have a lot of ammunition left and all of their unit models online. This one here has lost a handful of unit models, but nothing too crazy yet. So suddenly the Slayers are forced into a position where they charge out at the open field, just get wrecked by throwing knives, and of course, the handheld cannons of the Lead Belchers. I say forced, they didn't actually need to charge out there and do that. They could have stayed a little bit closer and do the Bolt Throwers, although I understand not wanting to allow the Trappers to get in range to throw their knives at the Bolt Throwers. I still think it would have been beneficial to just stay tight to these missile units for the time being. And especially, like, let the Bolt Thrower and the Engineer just do as much work as they can. But we'll see. Definitely going to be tight. Not sure if Santa will be able to save FESTAG this year, but the Dragonback Slayers are going to try their best, bring down this evil snow monster. And should be just about done. I mean, Dragonback Slayers, yeah, 12 unit models online, but the Snowhorn's also at its healing cap, so definitely hard to say. I mean, Dragonbacks are obviously gone for this world, but will they be able to do enough damage for it to matter? Another Rune of Doom being popped, speaking of which, as the last 5-6 of these guys continue to fight it out here. Thoric himself running in to smack the Scrap Launcher. Manually disassemble it via his hammer, and wow, he is really up inside that thing, isn't he? Yeah. Anyway, some Dwarf Warriors, Longbeards also coming back from route, getting perhaps in a position to pressure. But the Slayers that had been chasing those Lead Belchers around, yeah, they were never able to catch them, unsurprisingly, and have just been taking significant damage the whole time. The lead belchers have used up quite a bit of ammunition, but still have managed to get some good value back. Same thing here. This one has taken even more damage, but decent value so far. We'll see. The thing about the dwarfs at this point, they have to protect the bolt thrower and the engineer in order to have the capacity to respond at range to those lead belchers. But it's anyone's game still. The Corpo manager here coming in, corpulent Corpo, of course, trying to support his Snowhorn. Smack the engineer, but of course Rune Santa's got other ideas. Gonna pop Rune of Speed here, give himself and the engineer and melee attack buff. The two Dragonback Slayers, absolute heroes, also still providing flammable and debuffing the speed of everything in this vicinity here, all these single entities. The goons are getting in here too, though, and they're gonna take out the last of the Slayers. Most ignoble end for the final Slayer there. Dragonback, at least. I think there are a handful more Slayers. Yeah, still fighting over here. Managed to actually catch those lead belchers momentarily in the forest, utilizing the forest to great effect. But yeah, they do also get the dismember effect on them, the army ability to slow them down. So those Slayers, I don't know, did they actually... They did get some kills. They must have murdered some Noblars at some point. They got 146 kills and very little value. Getting back over to Santa himself. Santa needs to be careful not to lose his engineer here. Engineer's having a tough time with the Noblar support as well as the Slaughtermaster. Noblars should be gone though, and now engineer can go 2v1 with Thorek. Rune of Doom gets popped again. Nice attack buff as they fight. The Slaughtermaster here. Yes, should be good. Let's fast forward just a hair through this as the engineer continues to fire, and that's the best part about the engineer in a situation like this. Speaking of fire, the Noblar trappers do come forward and throw knives. Of course, the bolt thrower crew long gone, but still, technically, Banner's still here for some reason. But yeah, the engineer can fight and shoot at this point and just apply pressure continuously to the Slaughtermaster. Yeah, a little bit of Master Rune of Slowness in order to make sure that the engineer can continue to try and fight. Longbeards come in, they shatter these Noblars. They should be able to perhaps rout these Noblar trappers as well. But the problem is these lead belchers. This one hero slayer here in the open field. Not going to do too much against the full unit of lead belchers. There's not just a full unit of lead belchers, but like one and a bit there. Used up most of their ammunition. This one's still got about half, but we'll see. Thorek does have missile and physical resistance. 15% missile resistance, 25% physical resistance. So these shots are getting both of those added together for a total of 40% mitigation. As well as having these Dwarf Warriors nearby, the Slaughtermaster miscasting a little bit, dealing some damage to himself, and then the Engineer, not sure, let's see, yeah, it looks like he's targeted at the Lead Belchers right now, which I think is definitely the right call. The Engineer doesn't have a ton of ammunition left, but he definitely has enough to make a difference. He can continue to focus fire here. The One Slayer, oh yeah, true hero of the Dowie, getting into combat here against this Lead Belcher, smacking him in the ankles. And could you imagine, like, an angry dwarf just hitting you in the shins with an axe? Oh, jeez. Definitely sounds completely awful. But Thorek now moving in, sensing an opportunity to try and finish the Slaughtermaster. The Engineer goes to shoot this wounded unit of Lead Belchers, and then the one hero Slayer here just disrupting this entire unit of Lead Belchers, not allowing them to fire effectively. But, of course, the Longbeards that we're helping, they can't stand the heat. A lot of the shots of Lead Belchers are going to miss their targets and hit the Longbeards instead. And here, yeah, looks like the Slaughtermaster himself takes a ton of the overshots as well, and he's going to rout now. That's not great, but Thorek is taking some damage. I mean, Rune Santa. Whose name used to be Thorek before, you know, Santa fell off a roof or whatever. The one hero slayer, oh man. Oh, he's still going. How much HP? He's got 4 HP, and he's still just been chopping this whole time. Just belly flopping, whacking him in the shins. And finally, he goes down there. Not before dealing a hilarious amount of damage, I'm sure, as a single Slayer. But it also allows Thorek to try and get in range to fight here. He does have very low HP, down to a little over a quarter HP. This other unit of Lead Belchers, of course, going to fight him in melee. Lead Belchers, being much faster, are going to have no problem just maneuvering away and continuing to use up the last of their ammunition. Engineer is going to try and get into range to shoot, but again, this slope comes back to troll Santa's clan, as the Engineer is not able to shoot, but the Lead Belchers are able to fire up the slope here and hit Rune Santa. Like they're going to continue to try and reposition as the Engineer hustles his tiny little dwarven legs over, doing his best to try and get into range. It looks like he's actually shooting the Lead Belchers that are in melee with Thorek, which I think is ultimately a mistake. I really think he needs to hustle as far forward as he can, as fast as possible, and just start dealing damage to this unit of Lead Belchers. The Rune of Slowness also gets popped here maybe a little bit early before Thorek can disengage from this unit and actually chase them down. Or Rune Santa, whatever. You know the drill. Dismember is also being popped here, though, so it's not like Rune Santa could actually catch this unit of Lead Belchers. They've only got 4 volleys left anyway. Will it be enough to actually finish Rune Santa off? Oh, I think it will. Unfortunately, the physical resistance and the missile resistance just not quite enough, as successive headshots eventually lead to him routing. And hasn't quite gone down yet. Oof, wow, those shots are like hilariously bloody. And there he goes. Rune Santa falls in the snow. The Engineer immediately routs, and the hostile takeover is complete. So a big thanks to Tactical Lich. He sent this one in a while ago. I just decided to use it for my FESTAG special because everything about it was awesome. Yeah, the Slayers obviously I would expect to do quite well here. One of them, actually, the one that kind of got sent on a goose chase there, ended up not paying for themselves, unfortunately. This other one got pretty close, too. Maybe a little bit short. I get it. Anyway, the bolt throwers, though, I mean, they show their value in that 2 of them get some okay value. They're only 550 points, so it's not that big of a loss. But then the other one carries the value basically for the other 2. Ranger's also decently cost-effective here. Yeah, it's an interesting build. I'm not really sure to comment on this matchup too much. I'm very unfamiliar with it in land battles, I must admit. Santa, though, 3,000 value on him, 15,000 damage dealt overall. Impressive performance, must be said. Such a powerhouse. And then almost 1,800 value on the Engineer as well. Maybe even a second Engineer would have been helpful to have here. Hard to say. But in terms of the Corpo Goons, the healer here mostly just heals. Snowhorn dies, but still manages to get a lot of damage in. And then Clutch Lead Belchers staying alive until the end. Credit to taking out the bolt throwers, you know, limiting them enough that these Lead Belchers were able to do so. Scrap Launchers ended up paying a little bit of that price, as did the Enforcers. And then, of course, the Goons, the true Goons of the Corpos here. Many of them are quite cost-effective. They're so cheap, it really doesn't take much for them to pay for themselves. They get into a Cannon Crew, even into a unit of Slayers. Most likely they're going to pay for themselves. So love to see that value. Hopefully you guys love to see this replay. Happy holidays to all of you out there. Big thanks to all of your support, and we're going to keep it going through the holiday season, the new year into 2023. Is that real? Oh, man. Anyway, thanks again. Subscribe for more. Be sure to like, share with your friends, and have a wonderful holiday.